Hi, everyone. I'm Amy, and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about Judy Garland. I just saw the new movie Judy, in which Renee Zellweger plays the fantastic icon Judy Garland. And I'll tell you something, it was a wonderful, wonderful movie. And this is not a movie review, but I will say that if Renee Zellweger doesn't win an Oscar for this, it would be a crime. She is fantastic. Anyways, let's review Judy Garland's life and why I'm fascinated with Judy is this woman was a true empath. She was born in Grand Rapids, Minnesota in 1922, and her legal name is Frances Gum. It was well known that Judy had talent from the beginning, as did her two older sisters. And from the age of 2, Judy and her two sisters were put up on the stage to sing, dance, entertain the people of Grand Rapids. Her father owned a movie theater and at times didn't have any movies playing, so Judy and the sisters would get up there and sing and dance. And everybody saw that little Judy really had the gift. Now, things were not happy in Judy's family. Her mother, I think we're pretty safe to say her mother was a narcissist. Her father was, as far as we can tell, he was a very gentle man, and Judy loved him quite a bit. But they were forced out of this small town in Minnesota because Judy's dad was having an affair with a man. Well, they took off across country and landed in and near Hollywood, California. Mother Gum was bound and determined that at least one of her daughters was going to succeed and would be a star. The two older sisters really didn't have much interest. For them, singing, dancing was a hobby. But not Judy. She loved it, and she poured herself into every single production, every song, every musical that she did, even as a very small girl. She was signed by Louis B. Mayer, and she was probably 10, 12 at this time. And Shirley Temple was at the competitive studio, Fox Studio. And after signing Judy, Louis Mayer thought he really made a bad pick. He thought Judy was not attractive. She was a girl next door, but she wasn't the classic beauty that he could groom to go on to be adored or loved as a beautiful vibrant, sexy woman. Judy was vibrant. Even though she was the girl next door, she had heart, and a very big heart. And right before Judy was to film The Wizard of Oz, and I think if you're alive right now, I don't think there's hardly anyone that hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz. And we all recognize The Wizard of Oz and Judy Garland because of such. But Louis Mayer went through and told her, I guess they pushed Judy a lot. Her mother pushed her and her sisters. Her mother, from the time she was 2-3 years old, would give the girls stimulants, pep pills, speed, and would give it to them in the morning when they got up. When they went to bed, they were given barbiturates and sleeping pills. And this was every night. And so Judy comes along and she is so tired. She's asking Mr. Mayer, could we please just postpone the shooting of The Wizard of Oz? She's pleading with him that she's tired. She needs to relax and get some rest so she can give it her all. And Louis B. Mayer came back at her and said, you're not the prettiest girl here. You'll never be the prettiest girl here. And this whole country, especially small towns, are filled with beautiful young women and girls who would love to be a star, but they don't have the opportunity. They are going to be wives of farmers, wives of welders, and mother of children. And they would love to be in your position. But there's one thing they don't have that you do have, Judy, is that incredible voice. Well, Judy was talked into getting right back to work. I believe she had been working with Mickey Rooney. They did a lot of different movies as young teens and together, and they were great pals. So before they put Judy back to work, not only is she still taking the amphetamines in the morning when she gets up and the barbiturates at night so she could sleep, she was also given more amphetamines during the days to curb her appetite. Judy was just a short girl and woman. She didn't even reach 5 feet. So any extra weight on her showed in the cameras. Well, she went on to make that incredible movie and make these records and more movies. She did Meet Me in St. Louis. She did the original Star is Born. And they actually thought that she was going to win the Oscar for A Star is Born. So that year, they put cameras in her hospital room. She had just given birth to her youngest child, a son. Well, for some, Judy didn't win. Grace Kelly won in place of her. the studios immediately uh, those cameras and the camera crew that was ready to congratulate her when she won that Oscar. No one said a word. They just stripped everything down, packed it up, and left. Judy had a history with the production companies, with the CEOs of the film studios. And Judy was a people pleaser. She was taught that from a very early age because she got up on a stage and she could sing, and she loved having that love returned to her. And throughout her life, what Judy did was look for love. Her first two husbands were gay. The first one didn't last very long, and she was quite young when she married him, but she married him to move away from her mother. And the studio executives were all up in arms, and so was Judy's mother. Her dad had passed away by this time. He had left the family sometime after moving to California. And so back then, when the studio signed you to a contract, they owned you, and they expected that they were going to get that piece of flesh from you, no matter what. Well, Judy had a little fight in her. Even though she was a people pleaser, she had a feeling that, she was giving too much of herself. She knew that this constant repetition of speed, downers, diet pills, and not being able to eat, everyone watching what she put in her mouth, having her on a strict diet, she knew that wasn't good. And she tried many times to get out of some of these contracts, and of course she was locked in. So Judy started drinking, and the combination of the booze and the pills would put her out sometimes, and Judy would become erratic, and they couldn't control her on the set, so she was pushed from one film to a next, or anywhere they could plug her in. And in the late 50s, early 60s, she did a lot of TV. And when she was married to Vincent Minnelli, Liza Minnelli's father, he was a director. He was able to control her and where she felt loved. When Judy felt loved, she was happy. But every man and almost every person in Judy's life would leave her. And Vincent Minnelli, he didn't actually leave her, but Judy found him in bed with a man. And that was it for him. She married another time. Didn't last long. And then again, she marries Sidney Lutz, another director, producer, who was able to put her in to the right movies at the right time. And for a while, she felt loved. It didn't last long. The marriage did give her 2 children, Lorna Luft and a son that you rarely hear of, Joseph Luft. Anyways, Sydney Luft became abusive, emotionally, even physically. She had 2 suicide attempts where she would break a glass and she would try to slit her wrist, but she just didn't have the courage to, if you call that courage, or where I like to think she had more fight in her. She had more life in her. She was bigger than life in many areas. But in her life, she felt very small. From being abused physically and emotionally, she was constantly being gaslighted, not only from her mother, her siblings, her husbands, but from the studios that owned her. And each time, Judy would get back up and have a resurgence. She went for movies, plugged herself into TV. She had a couple different TV shows here in the States. A lot of times you would see specials with Judy Garland with her 3 children, with Liza, Lorna, and Joe. And Judy loved those children. She wanted to be the best mom she could. But that wasn't to be. She loved them, but her children, they don't grow apart from her, but her 3rd husband, Sydney Luft, he was quite the narcissist, not only the gaslighting, the belittling. Judy lived with people who devalued and belittled her throughout her entire life. But good old Sydney Luft, sorry, he took her fortune, this mass fortune that she had since 12, 14 years old. He gambled all her money away on the horses, leaving her nothing. And she does divorce Sydney and states mental cruelty as the reason. Judy's broke. She's now more on concert stages. She's playing in New York. She's playing in London to sold out audiences. And at this time, she has Lorna and Joe with her and part of the act. Well, Judy gets home to LA from New York. And at that time, she was living in a hotel. She had a suite of rooms. That was their house. That's where they lived. She returns and she is promptly told that she can't stay there. Her bills haven't been paid from the last time, and she needed to go. She took her 2 children and she took them to their father's house. And she reassures those children that this is just temporary. Mom's gonna be working. Mom's gonna buy her own home, and the children will return to her. Well, Judy goes back and forth again on the concert circuit, except this time with the booze, the drugs, and the outbursts, the erratic behavior of not feeling good enough, not feeling loved, and just the depression of wanting to sit and just be. She couldn't do that. She had to keep going. She would go for a period of time and then she'd crash again. And of course, everything would become erratic at that time. And she kept looking for love. She so wanted love and her family. That's all she really, really wanted. But Judy had this gift. She had this voice, and she had to use it. And the one thing she would count on most of the times, that she would receive the love of the audience. Well, her chances in the US dwindled down. And so Judy is offered quite a long standing gig in London. She moves there, and there's one scene in the movie that's quite touching, where she would come out, she would ask her assistant, is there anyone at the stage door waiting? She said, well, let me go check. Well, Judy comes out, and here are 2 men. We soon learn that the 2 men are partners. And Judy's very hungry, and she likes talking to people, and not just people who are telling her where to go, what to wear, and when to do it, when not to do it. So she goes and looks for a restaurant because she's hungry. But it's midnight in London, and they don't find any. She goes back to the flat of these 2 men, and they are totally in love with Judy. So totally in love. And where one of the men just pours rather his heart out, telling her how difficult it had been for 2 men to be together and to live together and to be in love. Judy's quite compassionate and empathetic. And she relates to them and more or less says, why can't love be enough? Why do we have to look at people as the others? Well, we go on, and Judy had met a younger man at her daughter Liza's party before she had headed for London. So this man returns, shows up in London, and he's bringing her flour. He's doing the love bombing. He's just giving it to her. Must be like a 20-year difference in their ages. But Judy wants this love. She feels, please, can I be deserving this time of love? She marries this man. And of course, like all the other men and people in her life, the cheating, the belittling, the devaluation, the discard, it's all there for her. She kicks him out. And she's having a tough time. You know, that trauma bond. And Judy's had a lot of trauma in her life. And she can't heal fast enough. And she doesn't know how to heal. All she knows is to try and deaden those emotions. And she's back more with the pills again, and she is drinking. And again, she is due on stage, and she is late. And they come and pick her up. She's drunk. She's high on pills. They take her to the theater. They push her out on stage. Judy can't sing. She's having a meltdown right there in front of 1,000, 2,000 people. People start booing. They start throwing papers and other objects at her. And as Judy cries, she suddenly turns and leaves. Well, we just assume from that point she lost that gig. And her assistant and the orchestra director the next day takes her to a nice restaurant for lunch, and they bring her a cake. And Judy, from years and years of having to deny herself, to deny her enjoyment of life, of food, of living, and all it is work, belittle, devalue, work. She says, well, I can have a piece of cake now. She takes a forkful. She goes, oh, this is so delicious. And she giggles almost like a little girl. She takes another bite and another bite. It's so ingrained in her that she has to deny herself. She pushes the plate with the cake on away. Well, the assistant and the orchestra conductor were very fond of Judy. And she asked if she could go just one more time and watch the show. She knew Lonnie Dunnigan. I know he was a big Skittle person back in the 60s in the UK. And if you want to know what Skittle is, look it up. It was an English form of music. Basically, that's what the Beatles played before they became the Beatles, a form of music that was kind of rockabilly, of what in the States we would call it. And so she asks if she can go. She's in the wings and she's watching the audience. And behind, we're seeing this couple, these two men. They come in and they're giving their tickets, and they said, "We're not here to see Lonnie Dunnigan or whoever his last name is. We're here to see Judy Garland." And they're like, "She's not here. She's not performing here anymore." Well, suddenly, Judy says something to Lonnie, like, "May I, for one last time?" And he kindly says, "Be my guest, Judy." She takes the stage. She starts to sing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." The couple hear that and they go running up to their seats. And Judy's in great voice. And of course, everyone knows, no one sings "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" like Judy Garland does. She has the audience enthralled with her. We're just last night or the other day, they were throwing trash at her up on the stage. Judy's becoming overcome with emotions. And as she starts to slow the tempo of the song, she's getting softer. The whole audience joins in and they finish the song together. The movie ends shortly after this. We are given the information that Judy Garland died of an accidental overdose of barbiturates. But through the movie, I also, with the pills and the booze, her body was breaking down. She was becoming more frail, more thin. And this woman who lived to love, to share her love of her passion, her music. And she was the happiest when it came back to her from the audience. She survived so many sociopaths, narcissists, but she didn't know why. She never knew why that people treated her so. She was on the pillar. She was love bombed and then suddenly devalued, hit off the podium. Get down, know your place. And I don't think I've heard quite that drastic of a story from any other star. Other stars tend to become more narcissistic themselves. The narcissists in this story and the sociopaths basically killed Judy Garland. Judy could not see that what she attracted in her life was what looked like love to her. Love from her family of origin. And she always loved performing. She gave it her all every single time when she was lucid and in touch with her emotions, and she poured it out and poured it out. Judy didn't learn to love herself. So she was not able to stop this downfall, these constant mental, emotional attacks and abuse. She believed it. But you know what? We don't have to. We know more now in these days. We know how hurtful, how very hurtful emotional, mental abuse is. We know it causes PTSD, which Judy suffered from a young age, back and forth. And the push-pull of the studios and the people in her life. But we know now. We just need to learn to love ourselves so we can get out of this rut, out of this slow death, and truly, truly live. Let our light be shown. And yes, we're not going to get it right every single time, but we're going to get it right most of the time. Thank you for watching.